Hello! So today me and Wilfie are going to be reviewing To Winward by Iain M Banks, which is one of the culture novels. I'm not sure, I think it's about number 6 or 7, something like that. And I listened to the audiobook narrated by the wonderful Peter Kenny, who does most of Iain M Banks's books, and he's fantastic. So you know, right off the bat, I would recommend listening to the Audible productions, the not productions, but the versions that are available on Audible, narrated by Peter Kenny, who does a wonderful job of pronouncing the frankly unpronounceable names that I'm sure Iain M Banks was delighted to litter his books with. So I'm probably not going to end up using the character names too much because I find them so difficult to pronounce. But as always, I'll go through an overview of the book and tell you a bit about what I thought about it, and then I'll give you a warning before I go on to talk about anything that might be considered a spoiler. So To Winward, it's very loosely maybe a sequel to the first culture book, which is called Consider Phlebas. So this takes place 700 years roughly after this big war that the culture got involved in against the Aridians, who were these nasty, barbarous alien species that were expansionist and terrible. And if you want to find out about that, you can read Consider Phlebas, which is also excellent. But To Winward is thematically about, well, it's about the fallout from that conflict, and it's in a broader sense, it really focuses on the fallout from war in general, and the dedication at the beginning of the book, which is to the Gulf War veterans, might give you an indication that it's dealing with that subject. And so from a plot point of view, it's pretty simple. There's a species called the Cheldrian, the Chel, and they are they're angry with the culture because the culture did what the culture does, which is meddle in the politics of civilizations that it deems to be it deems for it to be like the morally right thing to interfere with and help those civilizations develop. And the culture, before the book opens, meddled with the Chel society and was instrumental in this really bloody civil war, and so there's this vendetta, this sense of revenge. And so the plot centers around a Cheldrian who's on a mission to a culture orbital, and ostensibly it's to visit this exile composer who is like a conscientious objector from Chel society. But in reality, there's something sinister going on, and this military man is on a mission to do something terrible to get revenge on the culture. So it's really like the basis of it is that simple. It's like, yeah, Wilfie is agreeing. It's a very, very simple story, isn't it, Wilfie? Hello. So yeah, so on the surface, that's what the plot is really about. So you've got this military man from Chel, and he is damaged as a result of this civil war that he was a part of, where he lost his wife, and is so he's profoundly damaged. Maybe he's got PTSD, and really he's got a death wish. He wants to die, and so he's very happy to accept what is basically a suicide mission. Although, as the story progresses, the thing that makes him a really engaging character and a very sympathetic character is that he's got questions and doubts about this mission, and so he's really not like just a cut-out villain. He's someone that you can really empathize with, and he's, like I say, he's a very sympathetic character. So you've got the thread with him, and oh, by the way, he's got another soul being carried in his head, in his soul keeper device, which is like technology that captures your mind state. At the same time, this device has been implanted with the personality of a long dead general who's like his backup, and so they're off to the culture, and we spend a lot of time on Muzak Orbital, and we really get to see the ins and outs of how an orbital runs, how it functions, the scope of the different landscapes and environments that it encompasses. An orbital, in case you don't know, if you haven't read any of the Iain M Banks books, if you haven't, number one, you should definitely read some because they're amazing. But just in case, an orbital is a huge bracelet-like artificial habitat that billions of people live on, and it's all controlled and regulated and monitored by this insanely powerful AI that is kind of able to have thousands, tens of thousands, millions of conversations with different individuals at once, is able to process masses and masses of information, and is just generally the closest thing that you might have to a god. And control is maybe the wrong word. They kind of regulate and facilitate and keep the orbital safe, but again, as you'll probably know, the culture is a civilization where it's very anarchic, and everyone can kind of do what they want as long as they don't hurt or damage anyone else. So a lot of this story takes place on the orbital and follows the this exiled Chelgrian, who's a master composer, who's about to release this new piece of music, which is a symphony to commemorate the end of the Iderian War, which I mentioned earlier. And this is due to coincide with the time where the light of two supernovae that were triggered during the war, at the time that light arrives at the orbital. And the plot thickens because the hub mind that is controlling Muzak Orbital was a combatant in the war. Before he was in an orbital, they were within a warship, and this warship had to do some terrible things, make some terrible choices during the Iderian War, and so the hub mind is damaged as well and carries its own guilt. And so that's the setting, and that's the plot. And if you should definitely read it if you haven't read it already. It's fantastic. It's so interesting. It's so well written. It's so funny. The characters are great, particularly the composer. He's so sarcastic, particularly in the Peter Kenny reading. Peter Kenny just gives him like wonderful emphasis and a wonderful performance of this character. So it's really funny. It's got these important real themes about damage and PTSD and absolution and redemption and suicide. So there's loads in here. In fact, I mean, like all Iain M Banks's books, there's just so much to unpack. I almost feel you could do like a video talking about each chapter and there's so many wonderful things, from the different orbital environments, like whole landscapes with a river of molten lava on which thrill-seeking individuals can go lava surfing, to tens of kilometers of plains dotted with these ancient decaying pylons and air cars. And I mean, it's just wildly inventive, endlessly wildly inventive. There's so much you can talk about. And so from a world building point of view, it's fantastic. It's interesting to think about the minds, these AIs, and what it would be like to have this order of intelligence, and the good and the bad. What would be the burdens of having that kind of consciousness and access to that kind of information, and that, like, being able to see the world in such detail. I know Wilfie is very upset about the idea of seeing a world as an AI, but I'm sure, Wilfie, it'll be okay, I promise. Okay, so if you haven't read it and you don't want any spoilers, turn off now, because there's a few things that I just want to kind of talk about that might be spoilers. So yeah, there's some twists and turns, aren't there? If you've read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's the misdirection about and the tension, the drama about what's going to happen with the plot to blow up the orbital, and is the what's his name, Major Kalan, is he going to go through with it? He has his doubts, and then he does it, but then actually the hub mind knew what he was up to all along and was going along with it because the hub mind wanted to die. And that, it's so moving, that whole, I found it so believable, with the avatar of the hub mind and the interactions with Major Kalan. And Major Kalan is like a really sympathetic character in the end, and I just love that image of the hub mind and Major Kalan going out at the same moment and holding hands as they dissolve. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting, and if you have any thoughts, please comment below. You know, all that stuff that was happening in the air sphere, so that weird subplot where it was where Major Kalan was training and was getting instruction from whatever faction it was that was supporting them, that mad habitat with the dirigible behemoths. Yes, there's and the guy who gets killed when he's trying to escape and bring word back to the culture, the scholar. And oh, that's a mad section, that scene where he gets killed, gets his neck broken by the Chell, the white furred Chell warrior. But then he gets resurrected like one grand circuit of the galaxy later, so long after the culture have gone. But there's that bit, the thing that I'm really interested by is there's that mention of the Chell being called the lesser reviled, and then there seems to be a mention of the Shell world, something they did on the Shell world. And obviously that's something that's to do, I think, with matter. And matter I'm going to read again, and I'll do a review like this again, because that matter's maybe my favourite of the culture books. But so maybe there's something I've missed on my previous readings, because maybe the Shell were involved with whatever happened to the Shell world. Why are they the lesser reviled? What did they do? Is it something to do with the air spheres, the air worlds? Oh, it's all so confusing, but it's so compelling, and it's wonderful. So yeah, if you have any thoughts about that, let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, just generally, what a fantastic read, as always. So much to unpack, and typically I've kind of run out of time now. I've got to get back and get on with real life. But let me know if you have any thoughts or comments. Let me know what you think of the book. And like I said, I might at some point do a read through and do a little video chapter by chapter, which I know is probably indulgent and no one will probably watch it, but it helps me clarify my own thoughts on it. So yeah, I might do that. I hope you are well. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.